Now, in the introduction video, it has been made clear that the primary role of the JRC is to support EU policy making. Now, policy making in general is a great responsibility because policy making is always about shaping our future. So if we accept that policies shape our future, we also have to ask ourselves, well, who decides how our future should be looking like? Now, to provide the best support to policymakers, we first of all need data, facts, and evidences to establish a common reality between society, scientists, and policymakers. We need to talk to each other. Perhaps more importantly, we need to listen to each other and we need to engage. Now, with the art and science program at the JRC, we have made an important step towards opening discussion on this divide between the scientific disciplines, art, culture, society, industries, different sectors. By producing installations co-created between artists and scientists to create a touch and feel output to research that then people can gather around and discuss and create this common reality. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has had an accelerating impact on the digital transformation. And it seems that our JRC resonance cycle that we coined DATAMI to work on big data, digital transformation, and artificial intelligence is of great actuality at the moment, even more than perhaps we had it last year. I'm really looking forward now to the discussions between artists and scientists on this topic and within this new context.
Hello again. I'm sorry, welcome here. Sorry for the quality of the sound. It's maybe possible that you had some troubles listening to the previous video. She was Jutta Thielen del Pozo, the head of Scientific Development Unit at JRC, the Scientific Center for Research of the European Union. The talk today, it's as well as the previous one, the tentative of transforming a previously designed talk to be taken live at Triennale, and we have been forced to use the new systems for keeping our content with the new format. The video will present the work of Akitoshi Honda, a Japanese interaction designer who developed the project at DATAMI residence in JRC in Ispra, and Emilia Gomez, an engineer that works for JRC in Sevilla. But before talking directly with her, let me introduce Adrian Hecker, who is the project leader of DATAMI. Thank you. Go with the video, please.
Hi, my name is Adrian Ekels, and I'm the project leader of the Science and Art Project at the JRC, the Joint Research Center in Ispra in Italy. Today we are talking about tinkering and industrialness, and people might think they are different. But in a famous TED talk, Ken Robinson, education specialist of the Blair government, states that 98% of kids are capable of divergent thinking, at kindergarten level, that is. Because by the end of secondary school, the great majority have lost the capacity of divergent thinking. And that is a pity, because divergent thinking helps you in being creative, in finding different solutions. That is where the idea of tinkering comes in, where you can lose your time at improbable solutions and find them in recombinations that nobody ever thought of. That is basically what we want to provoke in the Science and Art project. We give a chambre d'amis, a friend's room, to the artists. That is at the same time a safe room for the scientists in what we have dubbed a democracy of disciplines. The concept of democracy is important here because when all are equal, invention becomes much more easier and experiment can go back to play and being fun. So we think there is a paradox here. When you find this improbable solution by tinkering, then you will become very industrious to make it happen. And because we all know a very simple fact, that is, when we find something real or cool or great, working on it becomes fun. So that is what we try to do at the SciArt project. We are looking for the lode in the mine, or if you want, alchemist stone, that will make discovering new things and building improbable things interesting again. If it is interesting for the scientist, it is also interesting for the artist, and it will also be interesting for the public. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the discussion.
Hello. So today is the fourth meeting, the last one we do together. And first, I want to thank all who participated. And I think it's very important to say one thing, that SciArt is not a thought experiment. I hope you noticed it. Even if thought is a gesture of affirmation and hope for sustainability and endurance, but like we agreed, I think, in the last 3 sessions, SciArt is an emergent property of the ecology of practice, interaction between practices. But I think what is very important today, where we go, is that I think it's really wonderful to stay in the Milano Digital Week. Milano is one of our cities of dream, and in this difficult moment we have in New York and all the towns and landscape we normally frequent, there is a lot of fear how the world will go on. And the activity of the European Commission and the GRC to give really an idea about the variety of thinking, of feeling, of experiment, of practice is really so important we cannot even imagine. If we follow Byung-Chul Yang, he says that we go to a society of survival. We are locked in hyper-transparency and hyper-consumerism, and we lose the sense of pleasure. We lose the sense, or like Renate says, we are losing dimensions. So losing dimension is a very hard thing, thinking about it. But we can say with Aaron Bernstein, director of the Harvard Climate Change, that really something strange happens. So we lose the connection to other species, to the environment, as the planet heats up, where species are headed to the poles to get out of the heat. Coming in contact, they normally wouldn't. Creating the opportunity for pathogens to get into new hosts. On the other hand, we see that the hectic research for a common language brings together or makes alliances that normally wouldn't. The one who wants to claim on free will, and the others on fist law. So it's the return of the uncanny. What we can say with Akitoshi and Emilia we have today, it is very important. It's there. It's about these connections. So we know that Akitoshi in his interfaces, he does exactly what we speak about. He's connecting the environment, the other species, and we are thinking about what does it mean that plants or other species are hosts in our environment, or what is it that we are hosts in their environment. And this is a very important work. And on the other side, Emilia is working about what is very important too, I think, the various emotions when we hear music and songs. And to develop algorithms, this is one of her activities, that show that even in this subjectivity, we can understand to hear sound. We can understand how we are connected. It is based, one of these researchers, on arousal and variance, but like Jutta said before, it's the listening what makes it important, and I think this is what brings things together. That Akitoshi today and Emilia, what makes the match is really the listening. And let's say the last word, I think Paul Cézanne's Mon Victoire is finished. It's not his victory. It's a new world we go. It's a new world of art. And Sci art is, like we said, one of its emergent properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddy. Freddy Brunner is a curator of the full project of residences DATAMI. But let's introduce now Akitoshi Honda, who is the designer that created the project you will see in half a minute. If we don't hear you, you should. The mic? On the mic,
yeah,
okay.
I'm ready.
So,
thank you very hi, thank you very much. One thing, I'm not a designer but an artist, so and a researcher. And thank you very much for Janine, Freddy, and Emilia, and everybody viewing this live stream. And today I want to show video with showing my two artwork, and both are making intangible environment as tangible using sensors or algorithms. One is dealing with radioactivity, and one is seeing local environments through plants.
thank you, Aki. We go to the video and come back. Okay, so Freddy and Akitoshi, what we have seen is the project you developed for during your residence at JSC in ISPRA. Can you tell us more about this project?
I saw two projects. One project with plants was developed in JRC, and I collaborated with scientists in JRC, and the idea is, the plant, we are having plants in urban environment already 2,000 decades. So hanging garden from Babylon, but we using the same way, just we have plants, but idealize plant is also sensor. It reacts different way as human being, also different time span, different behavior, etc. And I wanted to make plants as more, how can I say, smart object in urban environment. That's my idea. And yes.
I think just to add a little thing, that when we get from the commission the topic of AI, big data, and digital transformation, the work of Akitoshi involving some more than one scientist to come together with his ideas and them and the scientists to see really the real impact of their research in his work. It is, we can say it is paradigmatic for when we speak about what we said before, the emergent property of the ecology of practice. And what it is, stronger again, it is really sensing the other. And the other is not the human, or it's really this what we have in what we call post-humanism, what we have in a human, in another of manifests that come out around the world, and we should pay attention to it because they are manifests. It's really, it's something what we are calling for. And now to preach to Emilia, I think, to put in our round, even her with her way of working with robotics and in, let's say, emotional intelligence, it's again something very important, that to learn how to sense the other and how another or other species can have and what are these kind of emotions. Emilia.
Okay, hello. Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's very nice to take part in this conversation. As you have mentioned, I work more in the area of machine learning algorithms dealing with sound, music, and also interested in this interaction between humans and artificial intelligence systems. And also, first to introduce my experience in the SciArt program was thanks to a collaboration with Richard Pettifer and Thomas Pasquale in a composition of an opera that is called My Data and Me, Una Storia d'Amore, which is a satirical work on the emotions felt between humans and robots, or a human and a robot, a synthetic singer, in a dystopian future. So I do think it's a similar project in the sense as the one presented by Akitoshi, in the sense that we are seeing art, science, and technology combined in an interdisciplinary workspace where all these concepts and disciplines mix together. For instance, art challenges technology first, and technology provides new means of artistic expression in this sense. So I think that the idea of SciArt and the idea of design, technology, and artistic everything comes together into a situation where it's not possible anymore to differentiate the artistic part from the design part from the technological side.
Emilia and Akitoshi, to come, only in 30 minutes are really not enough. One of the questions I think what is inside or it's part of your work. We know that Lawrence Lessig could not predict that the large depository on his online images created with Creative Commons would become something like a unregulated source for surveillance technologies, and similar now happens to personal data, continually incorporated without transparency into privatized data sets. Your work, what is, I think, relevant, for this we say eminent, and gives a lot of data. And I think we are now in when I said yesterday, we try to tear the walls down. Are you afraid working in this kind of, let's say, era, what we have today, that maybe it can be abused, your work?
No, I think technology, data, art can be used in different ways. So it's neutral, but it's also adaptable to the different means that you can use. And I think it's also happens as in any other previous technological era that we have to use it in different ways. We are here focusing on the artistic side of it, and of course. But so I'm not afraid of the technology per se or on the data per se, but then it's up to humans to make use of this technology for the benefit of society in this sense.
Yes, I think this is very important. This is what we called yesterday, to pay attention to the knowledge magnification, what technology gives us. So Akitoshi, what do you think? Are you a little bit bothered about what happens, let's say, to the ideas of Lessig and what comes out in this kind of, we can also say that it was a kind of backlash on digital culture?
I think data itself doesn't bring anything. So with algorithm or with humans' intention, data has first meaning, how to use it, and so on. So whatever photo, sound, as a health data, etc., it does make sense with context or how to this data will be used. So in this case, so sometimes it's a huge problem with privacy, etc., or with evil intention, but with good intention, you can, healthcare will be more precise and so on. And I guess it's, of course, technology makes more reachable to data. For example, like such a smart watch and so on. Then you can collect more data than ever before. Yeah, so I think it's important to how to deal with data is more important thing than collecting data or data itself.
Yeah, my question was more also to Giannino now. It is that the Commission works a lot to know about how can we really manage open source? What does it mean? So in your research, I think it's even more particular. If you would put everything open source, what can happen? What does it mean? And what does it mean for cultural industry? Thinking in this.
I think open source is quite huge. Also, for example, Arduino is a microcontroller that most digital artists using it, and it is open source, and also many people make a project as open source. With that, we can learn. So before, of course, the background is, internet is everywhere, but without such a movement, we still have to go to library or go to university to learn few years to make one project and so on. But the open source movement makes makes border more lower and everybody could attend. But sometimes it was really surprise. sometimes open source is misunderstood as free software or something like that. That's a bit sarcastic, but yeah, open source is definitely boosts the development of civilization, I would say, or culture, etc.
Yeah, open source, it's a key issue in the digital transformation, including in in the cultural industry, for two reasons, especially in my view. First, because it's open source, it's the best way for letting to know exactly how the code is done and communicate to other researcher or developer if there's any, I mean, which is the scope exactly that a specific code will reach. And somehow to access the code is to access the reality of the project, of the, and the other part related to cultural industry, and this may be what also Aki is laughing, but mentioning, is the fact that open code, it's a way for escaping from the greed, and sometimes very tight greed, that through copyrights make the diffusion of culture harder. On the other side, it is clear that digital culture has a problem of, cultural industry using digital technology has a problem of finding a sustainable economical model that is also, that must be ethical and must be sustainable. This is the biggest challenge for artists, scientists, technologists, and also for everybody who is interested in culture, in industry, in cultural industry. And this should be an issue very much in the first stage, in the first level of attention in a city like Milano, in which the economy was based on industry, and now should look at new models that are, again, more ethical, more sustainable. Open source, it's a big tool to reach, it's a method to reach this, and it must be sustained in any way. And we are very pleased that the European Union is taking this decision and try to apply as many times as possible. As at least many of the projects are requested to be open source. Maybe Emilia, who is an engineer, has something to say more about that. We have 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, I think, as it has been said by Akitoshi, by Giannino, open source is a way to preserve the knowledge, to make it, some knowledge, reproducible, reusable in the future, also with other aspects of science reproducibility, which is not, it goes even beyond open software, but also open data and also open methodologies, and it makes some projects being preserved and being reproducible and reusable. So I think it's a responsibility also from researchers, mostly also funded by citizen or by public funding, to contribute to knowledge, to enhance knowledge with open strategies.
Thank you, Emilia. Freddy, I think this is the last minutes we have. I think you, the curator, and I have to thank you, by the way. I think I have to really thank you both, you and Cristina Fiordimela, who is the designer, set designer of the exhibition in Ivrea that was done in October. Please say you are the honor of say hello to everybody in this last moment.
It's a big honor to say this, to say the last words, but they are not the last, they are digital. So there is not last, not first. And I agree completely. We have today, and again, we have an idea about what mean interactions in interfaces, in algorithms. We speak about the biases. We know that it comes a lot of this research from military, but we know that ground is the art perception. So I think working together with the universities, with the scientists, with the artists, and it's not just bridging art and science. This would be really stupid. It's something different. Science changed, art changed a lot, and for this, I said it in the problem, in let's say a speedful way that Mon Victoire is over. It's really something different we are facing. So how we work together, how we feel together, other species, links, what come, new hosts. I think this is, and maybe the method of really of the common is something very important in open source. And it could help us to keep us alive and not push us in this kind of society of survival. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See you soon. Next project.